I used to be a makeup artist. Well, I still am. And every now and then, when someone sits in my chair and I pick up a makeup brush, something ancient wakes up inside of me. I used to say that color was the language I naturally spoke. There's something about there's something magical about watching someone catch their own reflection and smile in the way they hadn't before. I never really felt like I was simply putting makeup on people. It felt like I was helping them remember themselves. I thought I'd be doing that forever. Then Hollywood went on strike. For more than 20 years, I worked behind the scenes on movies and television sets. It was an incredible career that allowed me to work alongside extraordinarily talented artists, actors, and creatives. I'll save some of those stories for another newsletter. But makeup wasn't just my career. It was part of my identity. It was the world I knew. And almost overnight, that work stopped. Not because I wanted it to, because life had made the decision for me. Funny thing about pivots, we love talking about them after they've worked out. We rarely talk about what they feel like while we're standing in the middle of one. Mine didn't feel exciting. It felt terrifying. When people say, just trust the process, I always smile because trusting the process sounds beautiful until the process asks you to become someone you've never been before. The truth is, somewhere deep inside, I had already started hearing the calling. I'd been drawn to the health and wellness space for years. I had been studying, experimenting, learning through my own body, and working with people on that side. Quietly imagining what it might look like if I made this work my life. But wanting to pivot and actually having the courage to pivot are two very different things. The Hollywood industry was demanding. The hours were long, and the work could be exhausting. But it was also what I knew. I knew how to walk on set. I knew how to do my job. I knew who I was behind a makeup brush. There was comfort in that familiarity, even when the work itself was hard. And if the industry had never stopped, I sometimes wonder whether I ever would have left. Maybe I would have continued hearing the call. Maybe I would have continued building my wellness practice quietly on the side. Maybe I would have kept telling myself that one day I would fully step into it. But one day had a sneaky way of becoming years. Sometimes life doesn't wait for us to be brave enough. Sometimes it removes the option of staying comfortable. I wasn't fully trained as a health and wellness practitioner yet. At that point, it was still more of a passion, a hobby, a side business. So I had to become one. I went back to school. I immersed myself in anatomy and physiology. I studied nutrition and learned through my own experiences with food and healing. I became fascinated by the body's ability to change when it is given the right conditions. I studied frequency-specific microcurrent, and now I'm studying bioenergetic screening. I spent countless nights reading, learning, applying, and questioning whether I would ever understand enough to truly help someone. There were days I sat in my wellness studio and cried because I felt completely overwhelmed by the amount of information I was trying to absorb. The human body is an intricate machine. Every system affects another. Every client is different. Every answer seems to uncover 5 more questions. There were moments I questioned everything. Moments I wonder whether I had made the biggest mistake of my life. Moments when I missed the comfort of knowing exactly who I was behind the makeup brush. And here's the part no one warned me about. Learning a new profession wasn't actually the hardest part. Learning how to build a sustainable business around it was. Nobody tells you that. Imagine you declare, "This is my new path." And then clients magically fly through the door. Well, let me tell you, for me, it has not gone exactly like that. You question yourself. You compare yourself. You wonder whether anyone understands what you do. You wonder whether you're explaining it correctly. You wonder whether you should go back to what feels familiar. I have lived every one of those questions. And yet, somewhere along the way, something remarkable started happening. My clients began accomplishing things I honestly never imagined were possible. Pain that had lingered for years began to change. People who had been told to simply live with it started feeling hopeful again. They had more energy. They moved with less pain. They started believing in their own bodies again. Every time I witnessed one of these transformations, I was reminded of something my favorite teacher, Dr. Joe Dispenza, often says. He is continually surprised by what people in his community are capable of healing and changing. I finally understand what he means, because I've had the privilege of watching it happen, and every time it does, I realize something. The pivot was never simply about leaving makeup. It was about becoming the person who could do this work. Maybe that is what every pivot asks of us. Not, what should I do next? But, who is this season asking me to become? Because sometime life closes a door we would have held onto forever. Not to punish us, but because deep down we already knew it was time to walk towards something new. We just might not have had the courage to close the old door ourselves. And maybe that is one of the hardest truths about change. Sometimes the life we say we want is waiting on the other side of the life that still feels safe. Pivot question. Have you ever experienced a pivot you would have never chosen, only to realize later that part of you had quietly been asking for it all along? I would like to hear your story. Next Sunday, in the pivot pages, people ask me almost every week, "Claudia, what exactly do you do?" Honestly, it took me years to figure out how to answer that. And next week, I'll finally try.